Hello, Discover here to explain our cash back match. Here's how it works. We give you cash back for using your Discover card on the things you were going to buy anyway. Then we match that cash back in your first year. And that's why we call it Cashback Match. Now to recap and say cashback one more time. We match all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year automatically. Discover. Exceptionally common sense. Learn more at discover.com/match. Limitations apply.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.
Welcome to the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. Now, here's your hosts, B. Cox and the crew.
Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. It's a perspective of the classics from a fresh point of view. We appreciate you for taking your time and lending your ears to our perspective. You could be anywhere listening to anything, but you're right here with us, so we thank you. With you today is yours truly, B. Cox, and with me, I have my boy in the place to be, J.O., here as well, breaking down the classics as we always do. Appreciate everybody here for joining us within the sound of our voices. Hope everybody is doing okay as we head into the holiday seasons and get closer and closer to Christmas. Hope that y'all who celebrate Christmas and all the other religious holidays during this time are doing well and that your family is safe and healthy as well. Of course, as we said earlier this week, or as you heard on Raw Sex Podcast, for those who are following both the Vault and Raw Sex, we have a brand new website. Debuting this past week was vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com. Very excited to see this website go up. We want to be able to give you guys the content in one central space. The link tree was cool, but we need to be able to brand something for this podcast and make a central home for the podcast for everybody to follow. So please make sure you go check out vaultclassicpod.com. A lot of different things you can do on there, including checking out all the pods, getting all the streaming sources there as well, or all our social media links. And one other thing I'll tell you about, leaving us a voicemail message. We'll get to that towards the end of the show, and how you, the fans, can interact with us directly and send us a message as far as what your thoughts are on the show, or just dropping us and showing us some love anyway. As we always say here on the Vault, our motto is hashtag open the vault, hashtag nothing but the classics. And Jay, this year we've had quite the bit of run on albums from the great year of 1996, the phenomenon of year that is called 1996. And this album this week is actually the final album for this year that we're reviewing from 1996. And if we were going to go out on an album that was going to be the last one, it had to be a damn good one. So, and closing up this great year in 1996 is an album that I'm very excited and very, very happy to review today because of what it meant to me. And because there are a lot of albums that came out there during this year, and we'll have our top 10 at the end of this year for 1996. And so many of them I can say that I loved and had an impact on me. But as this year rounded out, there were very few albums in 96 that had as big as an impact on me. And not just me listening, but then also eventually me as an artist and a producer is how much I loved it. So we're actually going to get right into it. And we're going to go to the third studio album by none other than Redman, a.k.a. Reggie Noble, a.k.a. Funk Dr. Spot. That album is called Muddy Waters, released on December 10th, 1996 on Def Jam. Recorded between 95 and 96 with a runtime of 67 minutes and 2 seconds. The producers on here, Eric Sermon, who also executive produced. He also produced a good number of the tracks on here. Redman produced a bunch of tracks on here as well, along with Eric Sermon, Rottweiler, Praz, Jerry Wonder, and also Ty Fife. Those are all the producers here, executive producers, associate producers, who produced this album, Muddy Waters, of 23 tracks, actually, Jay, including the skits on here. So a lot of tracks on here, runtime of over an hour, but very entertaining. Now, 3 singles from Muddy Waters. It's Like That, released late in 1996. The very popular Whatever Man, which came out in January of 97, and then Pick It Up, which came out in the spring of 1997. Now, this is Redman's third album, Jay, and it followed up There Is a Dark Side, which came out in 1994. And one of the interesting things that I read about Redman and evaluating his catalog over the years, he said that actually There Is a Dark Side was his least favorite album to listen to out of all of his albums. And the reason why he said that is because that album, he was actually said he was in a dark place. He was feeling bad. He was using all types of drugs. That album only had 5 tracks produced by Eric Sermon. You know, he was in a bad place. He said even now, like he said, he had people come up to him and be like, yo, I love There Is a Dark Side. It's a great album. He said he's probably only listened to it maybe once or twice since it came out because of the place of where he was. So understandably, he was in a better place during Muddy Waters. He was in a better place. And as I like to say, he was in peak form during this album. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we get into reviewing the album. But Muddy Waters, Jay, this was the last big album, I would say, of 1996 after a glorious, glorious year. Redman deciding to release this album right when I believe like Def Squad was really starting to hit their stride. You had 1995, Eric Sermon released Double or Nothing. You also had the Def Jam compilation run by Def Squad that was released by Eric Sermon. In 96, Keith Murray also released Enigma, and then Redman follows up and comes out with Muddy Waters. And then, mind you, he'd also had collaborations with Method Man, with Tupac, and was starting around in form, also doing a feature with Busta Rhymes on his debut album in 1996. So he was very, very busy, but he was in a great place as an MC, I would say, during this time. So we'll stop now and go ahead and get your reaction on this album and when it first came out, what you thought about it, and then what you thought in the 25 years since it's come out.
Yeah, man. So like, it's the Great Muddy Waters. Like I'm thinking about it back then, like being in high school, listening to it, and just being thoroughly like impressed, blown away, however you want to call it. And then, and it's funny, like with this train, it's still in my rotation.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Like it's just one of those. I would almost, and I don't know if it's any coincidence, like as far as like being weed enthusiasts, I put it in the same category as say like the Chronic. You know what I mean? As far as like just like aging well, like you can still blast the Chronic today and like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? It's still just as fresh as ever. So I feel the same way about Muddy Waters.
Right.
I don't want to say it's like forgotten, but like, I mean, I think it's like kind of one of those ones people need to revisit, like to revisit the greatness of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I mean, people will bring up they'll bring up like Mobb Deep or Machiavelli or other joints from 96. I don't really think Muddy Waters gets his just due in that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when we talk about the best albums from 96, I don't think a lot of people bring this up. I think we're all blown away by the shine and the allure. So everyone will talk about the All Eyes on Me. They'll talk about the score. They'll talk about the Mobb Deep's Hell on Earth. They'll talk about the Outkast ATLiens. All these different albums that came out in 96. There was plenty of stuff. It was written.
Right,
It was written. Stakes is high. I mean, we could run down the list of all the albums in 96 that came out that made an impact. But this one was sort of on the tail end of the year. It was almost as like if you weren't paying attention after this head rush of all these like damn near classics and classic albums that came through that you almost would have forgotten about this by the time the year was wrapping up. So I have to agree with you there. Listening to this, and I was in the 9th grade, and I got this, I want to say, not even when it came out, but probably right around the time when Whatever Man came out. So I went and copped the album right around that time, somewhere in January, February of 97. It was, let me tell you something. This album, I was so blown away by how, because I listened to There Is a Dark Side, so listening and hearing Redman say that he was on a lot of drugs and he was in a dark place during that time. And then listening to this, I can see the difference. And you can hear the difference between that album and this album. And like I said, during this particular time, I'll even go out here and say it now. There are many people and rappers in their careers that can hardly have the pleasure of saying that they rapped at the same level of Reggie Noble was rapping at during Muddy Waters. I'll go out there and say that right now. I mean, this is like, and Red's always been one of the best MCs out there. I mean, it's not something that even I would say in history, the hip hop heads will always recognize how dope Redman has been, and he's one of the best MCs. But the rapping ability on this, like we talked a few weeks ago about Prodigy and how he was on Hell on Earth. This is almost damn near this like the same type of level that Redman was on this one. Like, the bars on here were crazy. Like his references on here were crazy. It's just the ease in which he spit so many of these rhymes. He felt like he was completely at ease. And then you back that up by the production that was done on here. Like, that's the thing I think what really got me into wanting to producing. This is probably one of the albums that made me want to go out and produce, because it was like being able to hear how some of these samples got flipped, like those vocal samples, like the girl vocal sample on Whatever Man, like the Al Green sample from the beginning of Love and Happiness done on Fire. I mean, those are the type of things that really like get you, like raises your intrigue as a music head. And musically and production wise, it was great. And then the skits, yeah, people will say there was too many skits on here, but the skits are funny as hell. I mean, it's Redman, though. I totally disagree
with that sentiment.
Yeah, you know.
I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, but the skits on here are funny as hell, and it's Redman, so you know you're gonna get a little bit of comedy on here because of the way that he is. That's part of the reason why so many of us that love him. And the guest spots on here, I mean, look, Eric Sermon, Method Man, of course, the great drop off by K Solo. And then to me, this album, we'll get into the highlights, has one of the best closing tracks of a hip hop album that I've heard, with the Ill Out featuring Keith Murray and Jamal. I mean, this album has everything. It has comedy, it has straight fire bars, it has lyrics and things that will make you laugh and make you nod your head. And I mean, crazy, man. I played this so much. And this was one of the ones that I actually kept, not just in my Walkman, but in my Discman. And I used to play it so much that, like, I wouldn't play it out loud at the crib. This is one of those albums I used to mess around and put the headphones on and listen to it in the headphones in the crib, because I wasn't playing that out loud. Because last thing I needed is for me to be in my room and my mother to hear, haha, where was I? Oh, yeah, sipping on Cristal with fingers up your bitch dress. Like... I didn't need that.
Not gone over well.
Nah, exactly, man. So this thing has everything. And like for real, Redman, to the level that he was rapping at on this, was a level that very few MCs actually achieve. And that's what, to me, I think makes this album so good. The fact that on hip hop Twitter, as I like to call it, people will go back and reference this album, and I'll see the feelings that they feel and the things that they remember when listening to this album, especially around the time when it came out. And in the years since then, that validates it to me as one of the best works that have come out, especially in 96, but then like probably since then. And it's a level that I think Redman reached at a time when the industry was at, I would say, at an all-time level. Like, you got these peaks, like, you know, 1988, 1993, 94, 95 through 96, you know, into 98. This is like one of those high points and high watermarks in the industry in 96. And he was right there with his level, right there close to the top of the game. So now we're going to get to highlights and get to your highlights, Jay. Let me know what it is your highlights are and any lowlights if you have them.
Highlights? I mean, man, there's so many on this joint. I guess I'll start off strong saying, like, do what you feel. Because I didn't know Pros produced records like that too.
Yeah, right.
So, and plus, you know, it said it was another collab of like Red and Meth, and that was like it was still riding high for, like, you know, how high.
For how high? Yes, exactly.
So like this almost like it's like a cool down from that period. Like it's like we left y'all at that high road. But okay, we're gonna bring this in. This like to cement that whole circle as far as, like, you know, us, like, our collabs, and of course it led to them collabing later on albums and everything like that. But it just showed they still had that momentum. So
yeah,
I just thought they really came together really well. Of course, Pick It Up.
Yeah,
It's Like That. My big brother, you know, joint with him and K Solo.
Yeah,
and my joint, like, probably like one of the most fire beats, and like really had me reconsidering like Eric Sermon's like being in my top 5 as producer. The Bump.
Yeah,
that shit is just a whole vibe, dude. Like,
yes sir, absolutely.
You know, it's like, even if you don't blaze up, like just wait, it's just so sonically pleasing to the ear. Like,
yes.
Along with that, I mean, going back to what I said about disagreeing with, like, there being too many skits on the album. The skits were hilarious.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, to this day, NIN is like one of the funniest skits I've ever heard. Like,
yes.
Even earlier, like,
hey buddy,
even earlier, I was listening to the joint, like, before we started this joint. He was like, hey buddy, are you going to buy some drugs? Yeah, man, get the fuck. He didn't finish his damn sentence before he started busting off at him.
This is the line of one of the most illest drug dealers out of Newark.
Our satellite van was stolen. Like,
Yeah, man.
But I mean, Newark did have that reputation back then.
It did, man. The bricks.
Just thought about it. Smoke Buddha. Of course, whatever, man. Like, dang, it's just so many. But I'll go ahead and stop right there. I don't want to say any yours, but like, it's just so many bangers on here.
Yeah, I mean, the highlights on here, bruh. Like, I think just even from the beginning of the album, like taking the intro out of it, just starting as off of "Is He For Real." Is like, I mean, even that, taking that vocal sample. Like I said, this is one of the great things about Eric Sermon, what he does. Taking that vocal sample, the one from Le Fla Escoska from Rock This Monster. Is he for real? It can't be. I mean, it's just like just the genius of Eric Sermon to be able to integrate that into a beat. And then also them taking the sample from the root section on this as well. Like, it was like, yo, that joint just came out like 2 months ago. They must have just did this shit. You know what I'm saying? But starting, man, from Is He For Real into Rock the Spot. First of all, Rock the Spot is another one that's just like, my goodness, like, yo, like Eric Sermon. That's a conversation. Let's stop right there for a quick second. We need to have a conversation, the reason why Eric Sermon is not included more in the top 5 and top 10 producers of all time. Why is that not a conversation that is had not nearly enough? I mean, let's not even talk about just his EPMD work, which puts him in the Hall of Fame just for his EPMD work just alone. But then once we get into what he did for Keith Murray and for Redman and for himself and for nameless other artists he produced for outside of that circle, man, just great. But then when you get into like the Welcome with WFDS, we're from the Dark Side Radio, and to me, one of the most underrated tracks on here that I think is probably one of the top 3 hardest tracks on here as far as how hard it goes is Case Closed featuring Crossbreed. I mean, my goodness, that was produced by Rottweiler. And it was like, yo, that beat, first of all, is so hard, it just literally makes me want to go out and rob a motherfucker. Like, seriously. With some Tim's on and a hoodie and a ski mask on and shit. That beat is so fucking hard. Like you said, Gotta Love, Pick It Up. That's just another point of Eric Sermon and that funk influence. You know, I mean, and Reggie with his bars on there, just ridiculous. On Fire. Another one by Eric Sermon. That vocal sample in the beginning that you take from the beginning of Al Green's Love and Happiness, that like just, and then like I got a notable quotable, actually, spoiler alert, from that particular song, from one verse in particular. That's just one of the ones that I have on here. Great track, of course, with Meth and Red. Another underrated track on here is Creepin'. And then that beat, like doom 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 doo doo, like
it feels grimy. It feels Newark. Like
it feels like Newark, exactly. Like Redman said on a mixtape, say it feels like South Orange Ave. That's what it feels like. The bump, I mean, goodness, yeah, that's just like you said, just go ahead if you won't even smoke. Like you could sit there and literally just roll something up and just sit back and smoke. The Superman Lover joint. Well, first of all, the interview skit. It's just something that's just like, oh, for real. And it's just like, yo, like, there's just these things we talking about, like, yo, these damn oral sex skits in the 90s. Like, niggas used to love to put oral sex skits on their CDs. Like, it's everybody from Biggie to the Redman to, it's like, yo, that was like a thing back then. But then the actual...
Nori had some.
Yeah, exactly.
Once
right.
he talked about getting head in his raps.
Yes, exactly.
He did on his first joint.
Yeah, Nori, that was like Nori's one of his favorite bar lines, getting head in the whip. You know what I'm saying? So,
thugged out.
Thugged out.
Like, God damn. I think he said head on joint when he said nigga.
Exactly, right. But the Superman Lover song itself, though, just like how that first started with the first sample in the first half of the song, and then it breaks down into that funkier joint and talks about the whole thing, and then that really starts, that whole Superman Lover series, into which continued into Jane on the last EPMD album, or at least their comeback album, which was Back in Business in 1997, which Parrish Smith continued the story from that one. So I thought that was real clever.
Dang, Jane get around.
Don't she?
The first rolling shit.
Exactly, right.
Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% US-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover exceptionally common sense.
You need a work schedule that fits your life, and Amazon has shifts that help you make the best use of your time. Whether you're a night owl, early bird, weekend warrior, or somewhere in between, discover the benefits of thinking outside the 9 to 5. You decide whether to seize the day or the night so you can get back to what matters most. Go to amazon.com/shifts to learn more. That's amazon.com/SHIFTS. Amazon is an equal opportunity employer.
Rolling was cool, but I mean, to me, like I said, one of the best closing tracks on a hip hop album, The Ill Out, with Keith Murray, Jamal, and Redman just going after it. 3.5 minutes of pure fire from all three of them. And there was no hook, no nothing like that. We gonna open this joint up with an ill-ass beat, of course, as well, to go ahead and go out. Red Batten lead off. Keith Murray comes in there, he's back, and then Jamal closes everything out like, yo, this is it. And that was the perfect way for me to close this album out. But those are just some of my highlights. Like I said, the underrated tracks on here to me, I think, which are great, is Case Closed, Creepin', and then, of course, even the Yes, Yes, Y'all. So it's like, yeah. And then the skits on here, I mean, like, come on, how do you not fuck with niggas in Newark? I mean, right. You know, how do you not fuck with the Chicken Head Convention skit, which to me was one of the funniest joints on there, because it was like, you hear the girls talking in the background, you actually hear chickens clucking and shit in the background. So, Redman is a fool, man. And then Uncle Quilly, and I mean, like, yo, you that's crazy, man. That's the thing about Redman. He's gonna give you some shit that's gonna make you laugh. And if nothing else, you're going to remember them damn skits. Like, you can remember every single one of these skits, and it's been 25 years afterward. You remember them shits like almost like it was yesterday. But still, top level MCing on here, the guest spots on here, crazy. Redman's bars on here, crazy. No lowlights whatsoever. I mean, you could literally, this is an album, like we like to say, you sit there and press play, and as you press play, you let this thing ride out, man. So, yeah. Great work on here, though, by Praz and Jerry Bass on Do What You Feel. And, of course, Rottweiler. I mean, Rottweiler had 2 bangers on here with Case Closed and What You Looking For? So, yeah, man. Really good use of the vocal samples on here, like I mentioned again. I can't overstate that. Just the very, like, you know, slight vocal samples you hear that are in these songs, and it's just like, where did that shit come from? And you go back listening to the artist who it came from to try to see if you can get that shit. And, you know, look in the liner notes to see exactly what they sampled and what it contains a sample of. So now we're gonna get into the fun part: notable quotables. So, Jay, let me know what you got, man, as far as notable quotables for this joint.
Yeah, like we reiterated so many times, it's so many, but yeah, I got to start off with It's Like That, My Big Brother.
Okay.
And it's like the last few bars are joined by Redman, like. And before I say it, like, I'm looking at this from like a battle rapper's perspective too. So like he was like, come closer while I lock it down like I'm supposed to. You better me, you won, you might have, but then you woke up. My turbulence make peanut butter choke up. Call me the Brick City stock cockbroker. Y'all niggas is fools playing with hood moves. You couldn't total my amount. If I sung, I missed you. Dismissed you, yeah, I fixed you. Dismissed you, yeah, I fixed you. Let your girl suck on the shit that I pissed through. Let me tell you, like, I gotta say this, like, if you in a cypher, somebody comes at you on some battle shit with that, like,
oh yeah, it's done.
I'm not an instigating type person. I'm gonna have that look in my face, like, you better get this motherfucker.
You better
like,
get this nigga. Yeah.
You can't let nobody slide on that one.
Okay, absolutely.
Nothing against Redman, but like, I mean, I would expect the same thing if I said that to somebody. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, you better come back for me,
right?
Like, don't just walk over, like, you know what I'm saying? Somebody saying that to you.
Yeah, exactly.
But
no,
it's one of the things you have to, like, you better put like a damn be rapping on 8 Mile thing or something, man.
Yeah,
like,
you better.
And like, I guess you could say it'll be on Creepin'. And what I want to say about Creepin' is I feel like, I don't know, I kind of like 50 Cent was inspired by this joint. You know what I'm saying? It's like, he was like, look above me for low profile, so loud MCs overlook me. I slipped the bartender some raw just to tell how much cash and Don P you pull.
Yeah.
I should start robbing rappers in the industry. If we ain't clicking, then I'm engineering your injuries. Like, shit.
Yes. If we're not clicking,
48 tracks of automatics and max, lyrically splat. Dad album to your mentality blacks. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
Like, he was in the zone on this joint.
He was, man. Yeah, he was. I think he would have.
Was of course with the bump, like just had him. Hold on 1 second.
Mm-hmm. And you know what's funny? While you're looking for, he actually mentioned 50 in this joint. He said, "Who the fuck running off at their mouth? I let my nigga 50 Cent knock that ass out." Word bomb on Yes Yes Y'all. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's the joint I missed.
Yeah.
Oh, but on the bump, he was like, ow, shit, I'm just one hip nigga. Shit is off the hook when my crew was in the mixture. What I deliver over tracks and rivers is making your lungs collapse and quiver. It's the PPB foundation in your ass. We be the bomb like the Oklahoma blast, then outlast a few clowns, sounds, raps. Stay being the Mac like Drew Down. Ask me what I smoke and I say, it's the method. Fuck off the hook, I leave shit disconnected. What's the name of that town rolling up trees? Jersey, smoking on the Baba Z. Now, in my younger days, I would flip to say DC, smoking on the Baba Z. Yeah. I just love that giant. Fuck off the hook, I leave shit disconnected.
Yeah, fuck off the hook, I leave shit disconnected. Yeah.
Man, it's just so many on this joint. I would stop there, but like, I can keep going, obviously.
Shit, I got a few, man. So my first one comes from On Fire, the second verse, where he says, "Now do I look crazy, deranged? Maybe you shot first, your Glock burst, but it grazed me. Now time for lyrics. Put up your gun and watch me get this shit popping like the West was won. Got that lyrical chicken feed for all chicken heads. Crowd your Rap City committee like I'm Big Les. More sicker than the Melendez brothers. You need Cochran when you're fucking with Judge Dredd. Put your fingers up if you love hash and cash. I've been that way since Ike Turner was kicking Tina ass. Hookers riding dick like I'm a motorcycle. You want to shine, bitch? Let me simonize you. I make sure your vision blurred till you don't know what occurred. Until I black out every nerd. Foul women get served like chicken head hors d'oeuvres. I drop your tops like heads with convertibles. Ha. If you still looking in the sky, I'm still high. All the way live like late side, wanna die? What up, son? You got this beat pumping. The way I feel niggas don't leave until they up in something. Pack my Dutch like my niggas in the county. Day room, stay tuned for Don Illuminati. Up around them big butt freaks is where you find me. And then he comes in, Martini and a Rossi, Asti Spumante. So, and he closes that joint out. But he gets his man on this on Fire. Like, to me, one of my favorite joints on there. My next one is definitely Case Closed, and both of them killed it. Crossbreed and Redman on here killed it, but Reggie's first joint, my one from him is what I got on here. The first verse, he says, "Yo, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. This is the 4 pound. The blast over the sound, man, I got the post sound. Yippee-yay, motherfuckers hit the showdown. But since we're broke now with dope sounds, so here we go now. Check the motion while I'm puffing on the potent. Blow spots with urban networks full of the experts. Plus this thing between my ears thinks clear. And the only thing that fears is the man upstairs. So fuck your bulletproof gear. If I decide to get your ass, better believe that it's more than a blast. More like rough paragraphs out Alcatraz. And ask your staff let me grime out your ass. Everybody's hustling with sons toting guns. We're Reggie Noble sprungs, we stick nuns that got funds. Bomb niggas like they did in Oklahoma. Freeze, you froze, Def Quad, case closed." And then Crossbreed comes in, and really his first verse was great, but his second verse is saying, he says, "Things ain't easy because we be struggling day to day. A bunch of stressed black men with not really much to stay, twisting up some brown paper that we struggle just to get. With the deaf, dumb, and blind become mentally equipped as I extend my pen to wreak havoc on paper. I execute and burn MCs with absolute with no chaser. Strong as chemical, the general with rhymes past record mics. I make the earth shatter like the seventh sign. My drama bringing around a new order. I'm sending a plague through your town like God of Sodom and Gomorrah. Your deacon, my vocals action got you speechless. Make gangster niggas want to go home and talk to Jesus. No man alive could bend on me. Beating rappers riddlely. XPD, breeding rappers, three-dimensional trilogy. Got no love for hoes, no respect for grimy hoes. Enough said, XPD blowing up, case closed." Like, yo, Crossbreed killed it on this joint so bad. I was like, yo, how come we ain't never hear nothing else from this dude, yo? Like,
It be like that sometimes.
it be like that sometimes, man. You get that one-hitter quitter dude, he do something, you'll never really hear much from him no more, man. But he killed it on this shit. Like, there's not many niggas I think that can get on the track with Redman and stick with him. But most of the guests on here did a great job of being able to stick with Red. I thought Crossbreed, from being somebody on here that most people probably didn't hear from, definitely stuck with Red on this joint. And it's just like, yo, this nigga killed it, though. And it's just like I said, that beat makes me literally want to go out and rob somebody. Like, ski mask on, Timbs and everything to go rob a nigga. Like, for real. So, no doubt, man. But yeah, I mean, so now that we got into like the lyrics and we've done the notable quotables and our highlights and everything, now I just kind of want to get into Redman. And at this point, he's 3 albums in. He released, Doc's the Name. He did Blackout coming out in 1999. So he had some artists on there, man. But, he's a rapper now that he even still rhymes at a very, very high level. Like, periodically, Jay, you'll see those videos of him doing these songs and, these joints that he's either recorded in freestyles. Like, there's not many rappers out there that are rapping on a level, even as long as he's been rapping for a long time as Reggie has. You know what I'm saying? And,
right.
And I just sort of think that speaks to a lot, one, his dedication as an artist, because let's even looking and examining this joint, like I would even say that, as good as he was on Blackout and as good as he was even on Doc's the Name, but to me, I think like on this, like you talk about like, rappers being at the top of their game. In 96, you could say that about a lot of rappers. Some people would say that about Pop, whether it was Machiavelli or All Eyes on Me. Some people would say that about Lauren when she was on Fugees. Some people will even say that about Pop Noose on Stakes is High. Definitely Andre on AT Aliens. But I would even dare to say that like, he might, as of this year, might have been the rap MVP as far as his rapping performance on here. I mean, that's saying a lot. Prodigy on Hell on Earth, another one that we talk about. I don't know what you think about that, but I think he was probably rapping on as high as a level as anybody else. Jay, Reasonable Doubt, so I think he was rapping about as high as a level as anybody else in 96. So I don't know what your opinion on that.
I definitely agree with that. Like, the only thing I think is that there was so much material coming out in 96, it really made it hard for him to stand out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's the thing about it.
You got to think about all these other people before you got to Redman, which is crazy, but...
It is. But it's to me, I think it sort of speaks to what the game used to be like. It was like you couldn't come weak with no shit. Like, and we've covered a lot of albums so far. And in the 96, we've covered so many albums. We've done Nocturnal. We've done It Was Written. We've done Stakes is High, Reasonable Doubt, Machiavelli, All Eyes on Me. We've done The Score. We've done The Coming by Busta Rhymes. Nocturnal, Helter Skelter, all these different albums that we've done. And there's still albums that we haven't even covered that came out in 1996. Bahamadia Collage that came out in 96. Dr. Octagon, somebody, one of my listeners was telling me about, who I was never really a big fan of Kool Keith, but I do respect, the standard he's had in the game, still releasing music after all these years, So some of these albums we haven't even covered. So when we talk about something that this year was deep, it was deep. Like, I'm talking about if you have a talented basketball team, you want to talk about the Golden State Warriors, the Chicago Bulls, the Detroit Pistons. This was as deep as a year as you can think, all the way down the bench. I mean, even if everybody didn't drop a quote-unquote classic album, the album was still, on average, in hindsight, even afterwards, a good 4 mics. A lot of them were like in that 4 mic category. And even the ones that weren't quite 4 mics were still albums that were dope as hell. So this was a deep year. And to see that an album like this kind of get folds around in the background because of all the other big names that are out there just shows how big of a year actually was. So shout out to 96, man. We're going to have that top 10 coming up at the end of the year for y'all to debate. And that may be one of the most hotly contested debates on this show up to date. So now we're going to get to the final verdict, Jay. The final test to see what we think. Is it a certified classic, a borderline classic, a classic just in its time, or not a classic at all? On a rating from 7 to 10. So what say you?
Shouldn't be no surprise. I say classic. I'm going 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yep.
Certified classic for me as well. 10 out of 10 out of 10. And I mean, seriously, this is an album still in rotation, like Jay said. Still in rotation for me. It's like when I turned this on this week, I didn't even really need a refresher because I knew it's like literally I'm going through this album and I'm sitting there reciting these lyrics like I knew them in the back of my mind because this was like I probably played this album probably like 100 times between the end of this year, the end of 96 to the middle of 1997. I was still pumping this well into 1997 and even years after that, man. To me, I think this is his best album, and I don't think it's even close. I think that even with What the Album and There Is a Dark Side and Doc's the Name, I think this is number one. I think it's number one by a rather wide margin, and that's saying something considering that he has a pretty good catalog and considering what people think about those albums that I just named as well. But Redman, one of the most consistent MCs over the last 30 years, And we got another one coming up to review of his next year. Next year will be the 30th anniversary of his debut album, which is What? The Album, coming out in 1992. So y'all make sure y'all look out for that. And also look out for Muddy Waters by Redman, turning 25 years old this week, man. Make sure y'all go check it out. Read what you read up on it as well. And Redman has been teasing us for a few years now, saying that Muddy Waters 2 was coming out. But he's been saying that since like 2009. So we'll know if we actually get that. So we'll keep a look on for that. But I wouldn't keep my fingers crossed for that, like I wouldn't keep my fingers crossed for Detox, like we did for so many years. So Let's not go ahead and even do that. But appreciate Muddy Waters for what it was. And that is going to wrap up yet another edition of The Vault. Please make sure you are checking us out on our host on Red Circle. Y'all also make sure y'all visit us on the new Vault Classic Music Reviews podcast website, vaultclassicpod.com. Once again, that's vaultclassicpod.com. It's our new website. Go check out all of our episodes. Our entire catalog is available on the website. Go on the episode pages. You can also go there as well and leave a review. You can get to any one of our streaming sources on that site, as well as all of our social media pages. And guess what? On vaultclassicpod.com, you have the ability to leave us a voice message. If you go on vaultclassicpod.com on the page, you can go and click the blue microphone listed right there. Click on that. It'll give you the ability to leave us a voicemail message. Yo, let us know what you think about the episodes. Let us know what you think about the show overall. You want to show us some love, you can leave a voice message for any of that. And if your message is dope enough, we'll make sure to play it on the air, and especially with some of our promo material. So go ahead and show us some love and let us know what you think about the episodes. Let us know what you're thinking. Interact with us, of course. We do it here all for you. And a reminder for our social media pages, we've actually changed our handle on Instagram. It's now Vault Classic Pod on Instagram. We're still on Twitter at Vault Classic. And make sure you go on Facebook and YouTube, the Vault Classic Music Reviews podcast. Like and also subscribe on the YouTube page. We appreciate the support. And if you have a friend, tell a friend. And make sure that that friend tells a friend. Always remember to keep your headphones on and your music loud, but not too loud. And as we close, we'd like to remind everyone to dream big, because dreams are the basis for creation. Always create, motivate, and elevate, because you were never destined or created to stay stationary in this life. And on that note, we say peace.
Thank you for listening and coming into The Vault. Please subscribe and follow us on Facebook at IV Creative and Instagram at IVECRE8.
Hello, this is Discover, and we take customer service very seriously. We know that if you have a question or concern about your credit card, that's a serious matter, and you need to talk to a real person about it. So we offer around-the-clock access to seriously talented representatives in the USA. Again, it's a serious endeavor. The only funny thing about it is Bob. If you call us and Bob answers, you're in for a treat. Get 100% US-based customer service and talk to a real person day or night. Discover. Exceptionally common sense.
Hear that? Is that America cheering or a sausage patty sizzling to perfection? It's time to cheer for Egg McMuffin and fresh cracked eggs at McDonald's. It's time to wake up to the aroma of freshly baked biscuits and treat yourself to a real honest-to-goodness morning meal. Breakfast, it's on at McDonald's. Now get any breakfast sandwich for just $2. Available only through the app. Mobile order and pay available at participating McDonald's. McD app download and registration required.